Hey everyone, my name's Mike, and I never thought I'd find myself here, pouring my heart out on the internet. But I guess life has a way of blindsiding you when you least expect it. I've been married, or I guess was married, to Emily for 8 years. We have 2 kids, Lily and Max, who are 6 and 4. On the surface, we seemed like the perfect family, but beneath it all, there were cracks I didn't want to see. Emily and I met in college. She was smart, ambitious, and always the center of attention. People were drawn to her confidence, and I was no exception. I fell hard and fast, and to my surprise, she felt the same. We got married a year after graduation, and for a while, life was good. We bought a house, started a family, and everything seemed to be falling into place. But after Lily was born, things started to change. Emily never took to the whole mom thing the way I thought she would. Don't get me wrong, she loved our kids, but she was quick to remind me that she wasn't cut out for the kitchen and children, as she put it. She wanted more. More excitement, more freedom, more of the life she felt she'd given up by settling down. At first, I thought it was just postpartum stress, so I tried to be understanding. I took on more of the parenting duties, cooked more meals, and tried to give her the space she said she needed. But as time went on, her cynicism grew. She'd make comments about how I was too comfortable with our suburban life, or how she felt trapped in the role of a wife and mother. Looking back, the signs were all there. I just didn't want to see them. Emily started working late more often. She'd taken a job in sales after Max was born, saying it was the perfect way to get back into the workforce without committing to a 9-to-5. At first, I was proud of her for finding something she was passionate about. But soon, her job became her whole world. She'd come home late, scrolling through her phone and laughing at messages I couldn't see. When I asked who she was talking to, she'd shrug it off. "Just work stuff," she'd say. I started noticing other changes too. She was dressing differently, more stylish, more daring. She started going to the gym every day, saying she wanted to feel like herself again. I didn't think much of it at first. I figured she was just trying to regain her confidence after having kids. But then she started spending weekends away, saying she had work retreats or networking events. One night, I mentioned how much the kids missed her when she was gone. Her response floored me. "They'll get over it," she said, without even looking up from her phone. "I'm not going to sacrifice my entire life just because I had kids." The night everything fell apart, I was cleaning up after dinner while Emily was in the other room, talking on the phone. I couldn't hear much of the conversation, but her tone was different, playful, flirty. My stomach churned as I listened to her laugh at something the person on the other end said. When she hung up, I asked, "Who was that?" "Work," she said, not even bothering to elaborate. "Work?" I pressed. "Who at work?" She rolled her eyes. "God, Mike, why are you so paranoid?" "I'm not paranoid," I said, my voice rising. "But you've been acting different, Emily. You're gone all the time. You barely spend time with the kids anymore, and now you're laughing on the phone with some mystery work person? What's going on?" She stood up, crossing her arms. "Nothing's going on, Mike. Maybe if you stopped acting like a jealous babysitter, you'd see that." Her words stung, but I let it drop. I didn't want to fight in front of the kids. But that night, as she slept beside me, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was very, very wrong. A few days after that fight, I got a call from my best friend Adam. He sounded hesitant, which wasn't like him. Adam's the kind of guy who speaks his mind, but this time he was choosing his words carefully. "Mike," he said, "there's something I need to tell you, and you're not going to like it." "What is it?" I asked, already feeling the knot in my stomach tighten. "I was at the car dealership last week, looking at a new truck. One of the salesmen there was chatting with another guy about his girlfriend. He was bragging about how she's this married woman with kids and how she's planning her way out of her boring suburban life. And Mike," he said her name, "Emily." I froze. My mind went blank, like my brain couldn't process what I'd just heard. "There's no way," I said, shaking my head even though Adam couldn't see me. "You must have misheard." "Mike, I wish I had," Adam said quietly. The way he was talking, it was her. "I'm sorry, man." After the call, I spent the next few days in denial. There was no way Emily could be cheating on me. Sure, she'd been distant lately, but she wouldn't do that. Not to me, not to our family. But the doubt Adam had planted in my mind wouldn't go away. One night, while Emily was in the shower, I did something I never thought I'd do. I went through her phone. She'd become so protective of it lately, but she'd left it on the nightstand. My hands shook as I unlocked it using the passcode I'd seen her enter 100 times before. It didn't take long to find what I was looking for. There were texts from a guy named Ryan, a car salesman, based on the context of their conversations. The messages were intimate, flirty. Some of them were innocent enough, but others left little to the imagination. My stomach churned as I read them, each one feeling like a punch to the gut. But the real dagger was the photos. They weren't explicit, but they were enough to confirm what I'd been dreading. Emily and Ryan, smiling together at a bar. Emily leaning against him, her face flushed with laughter. It was clear they weren't just co-workers or friends. I waited until the kids were asleep before confronting her. She was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone, completely unaware of the storm brewing inside me. "Emily," I said, my voice tight, "we need to talk." She looked up, raising an eyebrow. "What now?" "Are you cheating on me?" I asked, cutting straight to the point. She blinked, her expression unreadable. "What are you talking about?" "Don't play dumb," I snapped, pulling out my phone and showing her the screenshots I'd taken from hers. "I found these. Ryan, the texts, the photos. How long has this been going on?" For a moment, she just stared at me, her face pale. But then, to my shock, she laughed. "Seriously, Mike? Snooping through my phone? That's pathetic." "Pathetic?" I shouted, my anger boiling over. "You're the one cheating on me. How can you stand there and act like I'm the bad guy?" She rolled her eyes, her expression turning cold. "You don't get it, do you? I'm not cut out for this life. The kids, the house, the boring suburban routine. It's not me. It never was." "Then why did you marry me?" I asked, my voice breaking. "Why did you have kids with me?" "Because I thought it was what I wanted," she said with a shrug. "But I've realized I'm meant for more. I want a career, Mike, a life in the city where things actually happen. Ryan gets that. He supports me." "So you're leaving us?" I asked, my heart sinking. "I'm leaving you," she said bluntly. "I'll still be there for the kids, but I can't stay here. I'm moving to Chicago." After Emily dropped the bombshell that she was leaving for Chicago, I sat there in stunned silence. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This wasn't just a betrayal of our marriage. It was a betrayal of our family, of the life we'd built together. The woman I thought I knew, the woman I'd loved for years, had become someone unrecognizable. "I can't believe this," I said finally, my voice barely above a whisper. "You're just walking away? From me? From the kids?" She sighed, like I was the one being unreasonable. "I'm not abandoning the kids, Mike. I'll come back to see them. I'll call. But I can't stay here. I've been miserable for years, and I'm not going to keep pretending everything's fine." "Miserable?" I repeated, my voice rising. "You've been miserable? What about me, Emily? What about Lily and Max? Don't we matter to you?" "Of course you matter," she said, her tone flat. "But I matter too. And I refuse to waste my life being someone I'm not just to make you happy." Her words hit me like a slap. There was no remorse, no guilt, just a cold, calculated decision to leave everything behind. I realized then that there was no saving this. No amount of pleading or arguing would change her mind. Emily left the next morning. She packed a few bags, kissed the kids goodbye, and drove off without looking back. Watching her car disappear down the street was one of the hardest moments of my life. I felt like I was standing in the wreckage of a life I no longer recognized. For the first few weeks, I was in a fog. I went through the motions, getting the kids ready for school, going to work, coming home to an empty house, but it all felt meaningless. Nights were the worst. Once the kids were asleep, the silence was deafening. I'd sit in the living room, staring at the walls, wondering where it all went wrong. I tried to numb the pain with alcohol. A couple of beers turned into a nightly routine, and before I knew it, I was drinking just to get through the day. My friends and family noticed, but I pushed them away. I didn't want their pity. I didn't want their advice. I just wanted to be left alone. One night, after putting the kids to bed, I found myself scrolling through old photos on my phone. Pictures of Emily and me on our honeymoon, of Lily's first birthday, of Max taking his first steps. Each one felt like a punch to the gut, a reminder of the life I thought we had. But then I came across a photo of the kids from a few months ago. They were sitting on the couch, laughing at some cartoon, completely oblivious to the cracks forming in our family. Looking at that picture, something clicked. I realized that I couldn't keep living like this, not for me, but for them. They needed me to be strong. They needed me to show them that even when life falls apart, you can pick up the pieces and move forward. The next morning, I poured the remaining bottles of beer down the drain and called a therapist. It wasn't easy admitting I needed help, but I knew I couldn't do this alone. Over the next few months, I started to rebuild, not just for the kids, but for myself. I focused on work, leaned on my family for support, and started finding joy in the little things again, like taking the kids to the park or helping Lily with her homework. Emily called a few times, but I kept our conversation strictly about the kids. She seemed happy in Chicago, living the life she'd always dreamed of. And while part of me still felt the sting of betrayal, I knew I had to let her go. Holding on to the anger would only hold me back. Looking back, I've realized that you can't force someone to be the person you need them to be. Emily made her choices, and while they hurt, they also taught me some valuable lessons. I learned that love isn't enough to sustain a marriage. It takes commitment, honesty, and a willingness to put your family above yourself. And when someone shows you who they really are, you have to believe them, no matter how much it hurts. To anyone reading this, my advice is simple. Don't ignore the red flags. Trust your instincts and don't be afraid to walk away from someone who doesn't value you. It's better to face the pain of letting go than to hold on to something that's already broken. As for me, I'm still healing. I don't know what the future holds, but for now, I'm focused on being the best dad I can be. Lily and Max deserve that much, and so do I. What would you do if you were in my shoes? Would you have tried to fight for her, or was letting her go the right choice? I'd love to hear your thoughts.